Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. Our next guest has made it her mission to correct societal isms like racism, classism, sexism, and what she calls plain old stupidism. We welcome back the author of Be Better Than Your BS, diversity and inclusion expert Risha Grant. Thanks for joining us today, Risha.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And thanks for taking on the stupidism. We need you.
Right, there's a lot of it out there.
There is. Okay, so you've been working in the DEI space for decades. What got you into that in the first place?
Just growing up in a small town in Oklahoma, you really don't learn about things in a way that is equitable. Especially when it came to Black history and things like that, you would just learn about, Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks or, slavery. And not that those things aren't great and you couldn't find greatness in them, but I wanted to know more about who we were as a people. And then as I got older and I realized, well, it's not just Black people, it's not just Hispanic people, it's not just women, it's not just LGBT, it's all of us. And so that's where I learned about diversity, and I decided to marry my love of communications with my love of diversity, and I created the first diversity communications firm in the state of Oklahoma.
That's incredible, and I'm sure you've seen so much progress along the way, but we still have lots of work to do. How do you keep yourself motivated when you see at times it feels like we take steps backward?
Well, I'll be honest, that's really the tough part. I've been doing this over 25 years, and so the steps backward, they feel like huge steps backward. So I really just try to bear down and I really try to think about the people that lived through the civil rights movement, that lived through the women's suffrage movement and all of these things, and say, you got to dig deeper, you got to keep going, you got to keep fighting. But it is it's a tough industry to be in for that long.
Yeah, it's true though. When you think about some of those major movements, they weren't that long ago, and there's so much that we can learn and keep pushing forward. I want to ask you about unconscious bias and being able to address it in ourselves. Do you have specific tools or strategies that help people kind of see those things within themselves?
Yes, first and foremost, I encourage people to look at what I call your biosphere. And those are the circles of influence in your life, starting with your family and your friends, moving into the schools you attended, the religion you practice, the government you live under, and then, of course, media. Media has so much to do with how we see the world and the people in it. And then you need to identify the people that you're uncomfortable. Like, try to think of it as who makes me uncomfortable and why. Who makes you in an elevator shrink in the corner with all your personal items pulled in? When you see someone on the street, who makes you cross to the other side of the street? Now, sometimes that's a safety issue and you always need to follow that. But if you realize that it's one type of person every single time, you may have a bias against that person. And unconscious bias is difficult because for me, we don't recognize what it is. We don't recognize that it's actually a bias that is showing up in our behavior. And for a lot of us, we're living through the past hurts, pains, and experiences of the people who raised us. So if grandma went through something in 1930, she told you about it, you've been carrying it. Now you don't like an entire group of people based on something that happened to your grandmother. And I'm not saying that these things aren't things that should be noted and things that maybe you need to know in your life, but I am saying that that happened to someone else a long time ago, and you have to treat people for how it is that they treat you. So you need to identify it, you need to own it, and then you need to confront it. And confronting it is realizing that, you know what, I don't have this same story. This is not my story. It does not have to be my story. So how is it that I can show up authentically as who I am and embrace the people that treat me the way that I want to be treated?
And it might be uncomfortable at times, but that's okay.
Yes.
We just have to sit in that moment and find a path forward.
Yeah, it's extremely uncomfortable a lot of times, but once you train yourself to really understand, and I talk about this in my book. For me, I grew up with the mistrust of white folks, and people hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that. But it's the truth. I have, so many stories and so many things. But when I really looked at that, I said, I have just as many issues with Black people, because I'm around them more. I've had just as many things that I can call out. But I think we get comfortable around people who look like us, people that we think we can identify and understand better. But if we would take a moment to really look at, it's people. It's people. And I mean, sometimes you have bad people, you have racist people, you have sexist people, you have all of those things. But a lot of us we don't even give people 2 seconds to show us who they are. We just kind of size them up and say, this is who you are and this is how I'm going to treat you. And that's the part of it. That's the BS that we need to be better than.
Yes, we need to find the humanity in each other at all times. Thank you so much for
Exactly.
joining us. It was great talking with you today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, Risha's book again is Be Better Than Your BS, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. And we'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.